So, big news when it comes to potential coaching candidates for the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders have finally begun their process when it comes to setting up interviews for potential head coaching candidates. And just overall, here's a summary of the coaches they are set to interview. Now, the first one on the list and the most exciting possibility when it comes to the new head coach for the Raiders is the current offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, Ben Johnson. The Raiders have officially requested an interview for him, and from what I've seen, it looks like he will get that interview on Friday. Now, it is going to be a virtual interview, not going to be in person, but this is exciting to hear that the Raiders are going to interview him. And ultimately, we'll just have to see how that interview pans out. Hopefully, it's good for the Raiders and for Ben Johnson. Hopefully, this could be an ideal situation for both of them. But some other guys that the Raiders are set to interview is Aaron Glennon, the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. Also, we have requested to interview Steve Spagnuolo, the Kansas City Chiefs defensive coordinator. Also, Mike Vrabel, Liam Cohen. So, as of now, this is the list of candidates that the Raiders are going to interview, and this interview process is going to be a big step into selecting the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, one thing that is important to know is Tom Brady will be a big part of these interviews, so hopefully Tom Brady could work his magic. I mean, whether you like Tom Brady or not, there's one thing that you can say about him is that a lot of people seem to like Tom Brady. People that have played with him in the past, got a chance to work with him. It seems like he has one of those personalities that people are drawn to. And, it definitely doesn't hurt the fact that he's a 7-time Super Bowl champion. He knows what it takes to win on the football field. And just the level of prestige and pedigree that he has is nothing compared to what we have with Mark Davis. So I definitely don't think it's going to hurt having Tom Brady in these interviews. And who knows, maybe it could potentially sway a guy like Ben Johnson to be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, because to me, out of this list, I think Ben Johnson is the most exciting option. I think he's the one with the biggest upside, and I think ultimately that's what the Raiders should try to go for. That's what the Raiders should try to swing for. Try to go for the next potential Sean McVay type of head coach, a young, innovative, offensive-minded head coach, a coach that can develop young quarterbacks and who can run a successful, innovative, modern day NFL offense. And that's one thing you got to give huge credit to Ben Johnson for, is that Detroit Lions offense is looking absolutely insane. So I would most definitely be excited if Ben Johnson were to get hired. Now, one thing that I will say with Ben Johnson though is, to me, it definitely seems like he's going to be the top option for a lot of different teams, potentially like a New England Patriots, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know what the Giants do with their head coach. I don't know if they're going to fire Brian Daboll, but, he's definitely a good option. And I've seen some reports indicate that he may want the bag as well. Some people have been reporting that he could potentially be seeking somewhere around $10 to $15 million annually, which that definitely is a hefty price for a guy that has zero head coaching experience. But it's ultimately about demand. If he has that many teams fighting for him and interested in him, then he's going to definitely drive up that asking price. He is a guy that has an interesting track record in the NFL. He started off with the Miami Dolphins in 2012 all the way to 2018. He started off as an offensive assistant and was promoted to roles including quarterbacks coach, tight ends coach, and wide receiver coach. He then moved on to the Detroit Lions, where in 2019 he started off as an offensive quality control coach. He then moved to be a tight ends coach in 2020, and then the passing game coordinator in 2021. And he has been the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions since 2022. And under Ben Johnson's leadership as the offensive coordinator, the Detroit Lions have achieved top 5 offensive rankings, including leading the league in points per game during the 2024 regular season. He was also a pivotal part of the Detroit Lions' success last season when they made it all the way to the NFC Championship game, where they just barely lost to the San Francisco 49ers, and ultimately in this season where they have a chance to be a Super Bowl contender. And the thing with Ben Johnson too is his name has been floating around when it comes to being a potential head coach for a couple different years now. In the 2023 offseason, there was some interest from teams like the Carolina Panthers, He ultimately chose to stay. Last year in the offseason, his name was getting floated around and being linked to the Washington Commanders. And obviously this year in the offseason, he is set to be interviewed by the Las Vegas Raiders. And when it comes to his overall style as a coach, he is known for his creative play calling, his ability to develop quarterbacks, as Ben Johnson has done a great transformation when it comes to Jared Goff's career, and he has been described as a very meticulous coach with emphasis on focusing on details, which has been a big factor in the success of the Lions offense. Now, when it comes to his coaching tree, Ben Johnson's coaching tree is not directly associated with well-known modern trees like the Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay tree, but he has been influenced by a variety of different coaches throughout his career. Earlier in his career, he was inspired by John Shoop, his offensive coordinator at the University of North Carolina. Also, with the Miami Dolphins, he worked under several coaches, including Joe Philbin, who was on this offensive staff this season. So it'll be interesting to see if he connects with him. And ultimately, I don't know how Joe Philbin feels about how his coaching staff was treated this season, so that's definitely something to watch out for. But everything that I've seen from Ben Johnson has noted that he does seem to have connections with the Mike Holmgren side of the West Coast offense through Sherman Lewis and Mike Sherman's influence on Dan Campbell. His offense incorporates elements of the West Coast offense with short, quick, accurate passes, a balanced attacking approach between passing and running. He is known for his creativity and play calling, incorporating a diverse run game that keeps defenses off balance, similar to what we've seen with modern day Kyle Shanahan-like offenses. He's able to use multiple different formations, using different looks from the same formations to confuse defenses. He runs RPOs. He emphasizes speed with his offense and an aggressive mindset to stress defenses out. And he is a very analytical-minded coach. He does have a background in mathematics and computer science from when he graduated at the University of North Carolina, and this most definitely has reflected in his coaching, utilizing analytics to inform his play calling and overall strategy as an offensive coordinator. So just in general, Ben Johnson has been praised by many for being able to tailor the offensive scheme to maximize the strength of his players, and particularly quarterback Jared Goff, which has led the Detroit Lions to have one of the most electric and most dynamic offenses in the league. So to me, there's no doubt that Ben Johnson should be our top priority, our top target. He's a young offensive-minded coach, and what I do like is, even though he's young, at the very least, he has years under his belt in the NFL as a variety of different coaches throughout the offensive side of the football. He has been an offensive quality control coach. He's been a tight ends coach. He's been a passing game coordinator, and he has been an offensive coordinator. So he has a lot of experience under his belt despite being so young. And when you compare him to a Liam Cohen, he doesn't have the same amount of time as an offensive coordinator. He has been the offensive coordinator this season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then in 2023 he was with Kentucky as an OC, and then 2022 he was with the LA Rams, where he was fired after a very disappointing season where they finished 5-12. And after that, he does have a good amount of experience in the college ranks, but when it comes to being in the NFL, he only has 2 seasons as an offensive coordinator. So I definitely like Ben Johnson's resume a lot more than a Liam Cohen. But he definitely is a guy to interview and a potential candidate as well for the Raiders. Now, overall, I like most of the guys that we are set to interview. Now, Steve Spagnuolo, I do really love the aggressive defense he has with the Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't know if I would hire him as a head coach. I mean, he already has been a former head coach, and it did not go well for him when he was with the St. Louis Rams. But overall, I'm okay with these names when it comes to the interview process. Another guy that I think they should seriously consider would be Cliff Kingsbury, but we'll ultimately just see what happens. Hopefully this interview goes well on Friday with Ben Johnson and the Raiders, but we will just have to see what happens and what the future will look like for the Raiders when it comes to the head coach. I think it's going to be a huge decision, especially too with a guy like Max Crosby. I don't know what the future is going to look like with him being in the silver and black, but I think one thing that I feel like is almost certain is if the Raiders mess up this hire once again, and whoever we hire, we end up firing in a year or two from now, I think that would be the final straw for a guy like Max Crosby. So we'll just have to see what happens. But Raider Nation, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Who are the guys that you're most excited about the Raiders interviewing for the potential head coaching position? What do you guys think of Ben Johnson? Let me know in that comment section down below. But with that being said, Raider Nation, that's all for you guys in today's video. Anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.